graduates count their blessings with the Zimbabwean Takadzwa blessing. Plenty of reasons to celebrate with his graduation at the University of Newcastle. Dreading water, serious investment needed to allay future flooding fears up in Maitland. A man accused of murdering a 6-month-old boy in New Lambton in 2019 claims that the baby had bruises before arrival. Also, Monty Python, the man behind the James Bond fame, dies at the age of 94.
From Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia and the rest of the world, this is SBS Newcastle News with Conaghlin McLeod.
Good afternoon and welcome. And of course, Adelaide. And of course Zimbabwean Takadzwa blessing Madzavadondo, who's far right, had plenty of reasons to celebrate his long-awaited graduation at the University of Newcastle. He's one of the 19 students that make up the first cohort at the URN and the BINUS University's 2-degree program in Indonesia, which sees students complete one program of study in Jakarta and receive 1 degree from the University of Newcastle and 1 from the overseas university. Meanwhile, there was a narrow escape with catastrophe after structural concerns with the Levy Bank threatened to swamp Maitland CBD has reinforced the need for serious investment in the Hunter's water infrastructure. On a visit to Maitland yesterday, New South Wales Labor leader Chris Minns said the government of the day has listened to the situation on the ground. Built on the banks of the Hunter River, Maitland has fallen victims to floods since as early as 1820, with the most recent in 2007, 2015, 2021 and now. It is the fastest growing regional city in New South Wales, with more than 9,000 residents expected to call the town home by 2023. A man accused of murdering a 6-month-old boy at New Lambton in 2019 has told detectives after his arrest that he was covering for the baby's mother and the child had bruises on his body before arriving at his house, a jury has heard. Jai William Smith, who is now 31, has pleaded not guilty to murder, but guilty to manslaughter over the death of the baby, and is currently on trial in Newcastle Supreme Court. The prosecution say Mr. Smith was alone with the boy during the 2 hours when he suffered numerous serious injuries, including a fractured skull. But lawyers for Mr. Smith said the boy's mother had repeatedly punched and shook the boy before leaving him with Mr. Smith before having a seizure. Meanwhile, Lauren Jai has only just completed his Masters of architecture, but has already co-designed a space that has become a new landmark for thousands of his peers. Mr. Wan Jai, who is 26, along with his fellow students Maxine Du and Jaiwin Pa, won a University of Newcastle competition to design a place marker at Callaghan, where graduating students could take photos. An $18 million compensation package has been developed for registered beekeepers affected by the varroa mite outbreak, which was first identified at the Port of Newcastle last month, under an agreement reached by governments and industry. It comes as the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries at the weekend issued a week-long extension for honeybee hives to be moved to higher ground. Two people were lucky to be alive after they were washed from Nobby's breakwall in Big Surf yesterday, a senior paramedic has said. Emergency crews were called to the scene at about 8:45 a.m, where they found a man in his 50s and a woman in her 40s with suspected broken bones. Paramedics took the pair to hospital in a stable condition. The University of Newcastle will end Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander content and perspectives into all its courses and curriculum, build its numbers and Indigenous PhD students and research, investigate dual names for its spaces and structures, and increase its patronage of First Nation businesses as part of its new reconciliation action plan. Meanwhile, Hamish Constable Bolger will celebrate his University of Newcastle graduation by taking a well-earned break from the books. Mr. Constable Belcher, who is 21, said on Monday, said that it's a relief after he received his Bachelor of Commerce. And also, he said that we don't want to do anything, we don't want to think, read or do anything for the next few months. He plans to do casual work for 3 months, travel and start his career next year. His friend Jacob Young, who is also 21, who graduated with a Bachelor of Businesses, plans to rest for a few weeks. Still ahead, the man behind the James Bond theme dies at the age of 94.
Where can I go for great prices and quality bathroom items with names I know and trust?
This Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's back at RDD's. 750mm vanities from $99. 900mm vanities from $149 during our store-wide vanity sale. Toilets from $99. Freestanding baths from $695. See the savings at rdd.net.au. Be early, specially priced vanity stock limited each day. Renovators Discount Depot, 147 Newcastle Road, Walls End. Store quality depot prices.
Where can I go for great prices and quality bathroom items with names I know and trust?
This Thursday till Sunday, it's RDT's Vanity Sale. New arrivals, overstocks, deleted lines, everything in the store is reduced. All vanities heavily discounted. Elegant stone top, wall hung, coloured and ceramic top vanities. Budget buster vanities from $199. Plus over 30 new products on display. See the savings on rdt.net.au. Get the quality, the look, the store-wide savings. Renovators Discount Depot, 147 Newcastle Road, Walls End. Store quality, depot prices.
Welcome back. The James Bond music industry is mourning the death of its longtime composer Monty Norman, who died this morning at the age of 94. He was better known for composing the James Bond theme. Because of that, his fame was first introduced into the first ever film, Dr. No. More than 3,000 firefighters and 60 aircraft are battling wildfires in the Lisbon town of Portugal that authorities say have injured 29 people. Authorities said 12 firefighters and 17 civilians required medical assistance to treat minor injuries caused by the blaze. Meanwhile, by Sunday afternoon, Portugal's Civil Protection Agency said more than 3,000 firefighters were combating active fires. Meanwhile, potential successors to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson have rushed to differentiate themselves from an increasingly crowded field as the governing Conservative Party was expected to set a tight timetable for the election. Candidates released sleek campaign videos on social media and appeared on Sunday morning political talk shows to make their cases to the public. Several promised tax cuts, appealing to rank and file Conservative Party members for whom low taxes are a mantra. Meanwhile, in Colombo, Sri Lanka's President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has informed Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe he will resign, the Prime Minister's office says, after tens and thousands of protesters stormed the official residences of both men. After Saturday's sweeping protests in the wake of a debilitating economic crisis, the Speaker of the Parliament said that he will resign on Wednesday. However, there's been no direct word for him on his plans. Meanwhile, one of the jurors in the controversial Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation trial served improperly. A lawyer for Heard alleged in a recent filing that asked the US court to declare mistrial and order a new trial. Depp sued his ex-wife over an opinion piece Heard wrote describing herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse. And if you or someone you know is a victim of domestic and physical abuse and violence, you can call this 1-800-RESPECT number. That's 1-800-737-732. Back to local news now, and of course, Tara Mellor's startup is at 9 months gestation, which of course is appropriate given her target audience. The Anna Bay mum of 3 launched her breastfeeding t-shirt brand Gold Milk in October last year after seeing a gap in the market. To sport and in rugby union, Nick White admits to feeling like his international career was dead in the water. Having narrowly missed selection for the World Cup in 2015 and relocating overseas, the Hunter-bred rugby union player bid farewell to a Wallabies jersey. Now, in what he describes as a second lease of life, halfback White is approaching his 50th Test cap and has no intention of slowing down anytime soon. The 32-year-old, barring injury or team changes this week, looks set to mark the milestone when Australia and England meet to decide their 3-match series at the Sydney Cricket Ground on Saturday night. To Formula One, and of course, Charles Leclerc has survived a late throttle scare to win the Austrian Grand Prix for Ferrari, and moved back up as Formula One World Champion leader Max Verstappen's close rival. Red Bull's Verstappen, who had to settle for second on Saturday, still has a comfortable 38-point lead over the Monegasque after 11 of 22. And it comes after a nasty accident involved one of the competitors. To golf, and Olympic champion Xander Schauffele has survived a roller coaster final round to secure his third win in succession at the Scottish Cup. Schauffele, who came into the week on the back of victories in the Travelers Championship and JP McManus Pro AM, took a two-shot lead into the final round and birdied into the first two holes to immediately double into his advantage. To rugby league, and in the State of Origin, Nathan Cleary can take his career to new highlights if he succeeds where a generation of New South Wales halfbacks have failed and wins a State of Origin decider at Suncorp Stadium tomorrow. That's the view Blues great Andrew Johns, who, along with Ricky Stewart, remains the only New South Wales number 7 to have clinched a series in Brisbane. Cleary comes into Origin 3 in fine form and has a chance to enter the rare air shared by Johns back in 2005 and Stewart in 1994 if he takes his victory on Wednesday night. Still on the NRL and on the Knights, and he has been a backline mainstay for 3 seasons, but Anari Taula could be the odd man as coach Adam O'Brien sits down to choose his squad for Saturday's clash with Manly at Brookvale. In a rare luxury, O'Brien looks set to have virtually every one of his top-line players available, providing Callum Ponga and Dane Gagai for Queensland and Jacob Saifidi for New South Wales emerge intact from Wednesday's State of Origin series decider. Meanwhile, the return of Jaden Bradley, Bowman Best and Daniel Saifidi in the past 2 weeks leaves O'Brien with basically a full complement and some selections dilemmas. And of course, the only Newcastle player who would appear in doubt for Saturday's match is young forward Pasimi Solo, who suffered a nasty head knock in last week's 40-28 loss to South Sydney. Let's head on to surfing. And of course, Mayweather's Morgan Siblik dropped one spot outside the Championship Tour qualification after 3 events on the 8-stop Challenger Series. Siblik slipped from 9th to 12th on the CES rankings after his second round loss in South Africa. Meanwhile, Philip Anderson and Sarah Baum fell 1 and 2 spots, respectively, on the women's, but on the CT, Jackson Baker faces Ethan Ewing and Baron Mamaya in round 1 at the G-Bay Open, which could start tonight. Meanwhile, traffic and electrical issues arising from flooding forced the abandonment of the Maitland Greyhounds meeting last night. The 10 race program was cancelled yesterday morning despite the Maitland Showground track service remaining suitable for racing. Maitland Greyhounds said the meeting was called off because of localised flooding and major road closures, which were causing traffic delays and had restricted the area around the showground to vehicles of locals and emergency services. Now to harness racing, and Sawyer's Gully trainer Adam Regawi had instant success with Stable Edition beneath the shadow despite a shaky start at Newcastle Pathway on Monday. Beneath the Shadows, a 5-year-old gelding won at Newcastle on April the 1st, but was having his first start for Regawi on Monday in the 7th. A 5.50 St. Chance Beneath the Shadow was racing for the first time since back-to-back last placings. Meanwhile, Beneath the Shadow was fractious in the score-up. Still on golf, and Charlestown professional Blake Windred will be out to reignite his European Challenge Tour campaign in the Ullum Bank Open in Austria, starting on Thursday. And thankfully, his clubs are with him. Windred has spent the past month competing in the Asian Tour and the Live Invitational Series. The 24-year-old finished tied for 44th in the Mega Rich Live Series event in Portland last week. Wimbledon, and confirming their unlikely blossoming bromance, Novak Djokovic has hailed Nick Kyrgios a potential Wimbledon champion despite defeating him. And of course, Djokovic had to pull out all stops to post a stirring comeback on Sunday. But despite losing, Kyrgios celebrated right up at the club. Still on Wimbledon, and of course Nick Kyrgios finally feels he belongs on the big stages. Hunting the most titles in tennis despite falling painfully short in his maiden Grand Slam Grand Final. Kyrgios was left gutted and hardened in equal parts following Sunday's loss in a high-quality Wimbledon title match. Meanwhile, Wimbledon may be where his heart is, but Melbourne Park still boasts Novak Djokovic's favourite centre court, as the Super Serb looks to dominate tennis for years to come. Despite being ingloriously deported on the eve of this year's first Grand Slam in January, not only does Djokovic refuse to harbour any ill will towards Australia, he dreams of returning to resume his Rod Laver Arena love affair. To AFL, and GWS has confirmed Phil Davis's season is over because of a hamstring injury, which also threatens to end the defensive stalwart's career. Scans have redeveloped a ruptured tendon after Davis suffered a right hamstring injury in Saturday night's loss to Port Adelaide. Meanwhile, Sydney Swans coach John Longmire has reflected on his not-so-fond memory of lining up Gary Ablett, sir, as the Hunters' Lance Franklin prepares to overtake the Geelong great. 3 goals for Franklin in Saturday night's clash with Fremantle in Perth will see the Star Swan leapfrog Ablett into 5th spot on the all-time AFL goals list. Meanwhile, former players Leon Davis and Andrew Croquier have made peace with Collingwood following racism that occurred during their careers at the club. Davis, Croquier, and ex-teammate Huita Lamumba cut ties with the Magpies in April when they declared nothing has changed following the 2021 Do Better report into allegations of racism. To the weather now. It will be alright for Newcastle, as well as for Shortland, Wallsend, Cardiff, Newhampton, Charlestown, Eleebana, Fassifern, Taralba and Windale. It will also be okay for Heatherbrae, Williamtown, Tomago, Hexham and Minmai, and also Curry will be fine as well. It will also be fine for Singleton, Blankton, Bloke, Bulga, Rothbury, Paxton, Cessnock, as well as Nelson Bay, the Tea Gardens, and Maitland. Let's have a look at how the rest of the state is doing. It'll be alright for Sydney and also for Melbourne. It will also be okay for Brisbane and also for Darwin, Perth, as well as for Alice Springs. Now to New Zealand. It'll be okay for Auckland, Dunedin, Wellington and Christchurch. In Southeast Asia, it will be alright for Singapore as well as for the rest of them, including Manila. In Asia, it will be okay for Tokyo, Beijing as well as for Shanghai. In the Middle East, it will be alright for India as well as Islamabad, Afghanistan, Pakistan as well as Jaipur, and also as well as Oman and Muscat, as well as for Oman. In Africa, it'll be right for Sudan, as well as Nigeria, Chad, Libya, Egypt, as well as for Algeria, and also for Zimbabwe. To Europe, it'll be okay for Ireland, as well as for the UK, Norway, Denmark, Germany, as well as Poland and Finland. In South America, it will be okay for Brazil, as well as for its areas, including Paraguay, Bolivia and Peru, and also Ecuador and Colombia, and also for Venezuela. And for North America, it will be okay for Los Angeles, Dallas, Kansas City, Indianapolis, and also for Nashville and Chicago and Toronto. Recapping our top stories now. Local graduates have all but counted their blessings right up at the University of Newcastle. The water continues right up in Maitland in the Hunter Valley. Also, a man covering for a mother accused of murder claims that a young baby had bruises before an arrival. Also, Monty Norman, the man behind the James Bond theme, has died at the age of 94. That's it for this Tuesday. My name's Conklin McLeod, and don't forget, I'll be back tomorrow. Good night.